want to continue talking about mistakes. The dedication for the session was to making as many mistakes as possible. It's nice. And we talked a little bit yesterday about what a mistake is, mistaking something. And as I was doing a little more research today, uh, there is, I think, a Dogen quote. I think it's Dogen. Now I forget where it was, but basically talking about our life and our practice as just one continuous mistake, really pointing to that same thing we were talking about yesterday, the principle of non abiding, not getting stuck anywhere, to assert anything, to grasp to anything, to settle anywhere is a mistake. And yet we do it constantly. So, yeah, I thought we'd take a look at another koan today that also mentions mistakes. It's also in the Blue Cliff Record. This is the book of koans that here in our lineage we do after the Muman Khan, or the Gateless Gate. So I've talked about this koan somewhat recently in the past year or so. So I hope it's not too redundant. Hopefully, there's something fresh each time we take a look at these koans. And as you'll see, for those of you that are on the koan path, a lot of these koans show up multiple times anyway. And hopefully, yeah, hopefully they're always fresh, offering something new. Um, yeah, so always trying to hear not just Dharma talks and koans, but every single thing in our life with that beginner's mind, that freshness, the freshness of spring in everything we do, even the most repetitive, monotonous, routine things. What would that be like to show up fresh, enthusiastic about everything? Sesshin is so good for that. It gives us this really strong container to flex that muscle of dropping off and being present, fresh, every moment. Sometimes I forget that, we call it practice, right? My spiritual practice, my zazen practice. Come practice with us. And it kind of like has its own little meaning, its own little thing. Practice, my practice, my practice. It's really easy for me to forget that, like, we're practicing. It's like shooting basketballs from the free throw line over and over again. We're practicing this dropping off, this inviting not knowing. We're practicing that. We're given this space, this time, this container, and the support of these people. Look around you or look around the screen. We're all allowing each other to practice, to rehearse over and over and over again. And, you know, uprooting the very notion of self and life is not an easy task. And every step we take to trying to realize that is a mistake. And so, yeah, the support of the Sangha on this crazy long adventure that we're on is very important. Okay, so this is case number 98 towards the end of the Blue Cliff Record. When Master Tenpei was on pilgrimage, he called on Sai In. He used to say, "Don't say you understand Buddhism. I can't find anyone who can cite a saying." One day, seeing him in the distance, Cyan called to Tenpei. When Tenpei looked up, Cyan said, "Mistake." Tenpei took 2 or 3 steps. Again, Cyan said, "Mistake." Tenpei came closer. Cyan said, "Were these 2 mistakes just now my mistakes or your mistakes?" Tenpei said, "My mistakes." Cyan said, "Mistake." Tenpei gave up. Cyan said, "Just stay here for the summer so I can discuss these 2 mistakes with you." Tenpei left right then and there. Later, when Tenpei was living in a temple, he said to the congregation, "When I was first going on pilgrimage, I was blown by the wind of events to the abode of Cyan. Twice in a row, he declared a mistake, and he tried to keep me there for the summer so he could discuss this with me. I do not say I was mistaken then. When I set out on pilgrimage, I already knew it was mistaken." Thank you for this dedication. It has made koan choice very easy. So, if you'll humor me to just go line by line, and yeah, just another reminder, little uh, injunction here. Uh, I love what our guest teacher friend Gak said about Dharma talks, that the way we hear a Dharma talk or show up for a Dharma talk is to just be like a tree, and the Dharma talk is like the wind, and it rustles some leaves, doesn't rustle other leaves, and then it just dies down. So, yeah, allow whatever is rustled to rustle and settle in your body, and then just let it go. We're not here to take notes. That would be a mistake. We're not here to remember some really amazing saying that's going to change my life. That would be a mistake. Just allow it to sink into your body as it may. You don't have to do anything. That's such a relief that I feel from that whole wind and leaf metaphor, is that you ain't got to do nothing but show up and listen and let the magic do its thing or not. So, when Master Tenpei was on pilgrimage, you don't know if he's a master at this point. Uh, when we go to later in the second part or the later part of the koan, then he's a teacher and he's giving a talk to his congregation. But at this point, he's probably just a wandering monk, younger guy. Just like yesterday, we talked about folks going on pilgrimage to study with various teachers and test their understanding. Um, so he's on pilgrimage and he goes to Cyan's place. I don't know much about Cyan. This is the one time he shows up. But Cyan used to say, "Don't say you understand Buddhism. Don't say you understand Buddhism." Why? Why don't say that? What is that a key tip off of, right? We have some other very prominent masters saying not knowing is the most intimate. So If you get somebody coming in being like, "Oh, I get Buddhism. Oh, I know Buddhism. I understand it." Uh, I don't know if I would trust that person so much. In fact, I find that that kind of applies to everything. I don't know if maybe you've seen that too, but like I remember when I was in college and I was a music major, and then I went into the music industry in LA, and I found that pretty much 100% of the time, anyone who offered or like voluntarily shared how much they knew about music, who they've played with, who they recorded with, who they're talking to, what managers they're with, blah, 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 typically had nothing going on and were not very good. But the ones who wanted to talk to you about beer or trees, and at the sound of talking about music, they were just kind of like, yeah, yeah, music. Those were the masters. Those were the badasses because they don't have to talk about it. They're just living it. They don't have to prove anything. They don't have to dig in and be all eager beaver about it. It's just their life. Same with I don't know, everything. Everything. If anyone comes up to me telling me how much they know and how good they are and how much they got going on with something, it's typically a good sign that they're struggling in that realm and have to prove something to themselves. So, yeah, don't say you understand Buddhism, A, because it's a tip off, you don't know what you're talking about, and it kind of goes against the whole Buddhism thing of not knowing. And then he says, I can't find anyone who can cite a saying. Not even the Buddha himself. Not even Dogen. Not even Cyan. Citing a saying is totally useless. Cite your saying right now. So one day, so he's staying with Cyan. He's, practicing with him, doing the temple thing. And this don't say you understand Buddhism. I can't find anyone who can cite a saying. It's also kind of like a hook, right? It's kind of like a poke, especially for a newcomer to practice. Really? You can't find anyone, huh? Well, maybe I'll be the one. I see your challenge. Um, and in fact, in the commentary, Hakuin says he declares that talking like an eager beaver. I love that. Someone come play with me. I can't find anyone who can cite a saying. He just wants a spiritual friend. He wants us all to practice with him. It's a hook, it's an upaya. Upaya means skillful means. How do we get ourselves really hooked on this practice? So they're practicing together, they're out in the field working maybe, and then one day, seeing him in the distance, Cyan called out to Tenpei, Hey Tenpei! Hey Milena! And then when Tenpei looked up, Cyan said, Mistake. Another poke. I remember reading somewhere, I don't know where this was, it's kind of ridiculous. Some verse or some commentary on something, I don't know. It was something along the lines of like, if you're really Zen, then when someone calls your name, you don't even look because you're so concentrated in the moment and you don't separate yourself. I think that's a pretty stinky thing to do or think. And so does Cyan. He says mistake. Or that could be what he's saying. Could be what he's saying. I think it's more of a hook. What do you mean mistake? Is it a mistake to look up when someone calls you? What if they need your help? It's kind of like what we talked about yesterday, this continuous mistake, realizing that to look up is a mistake. You're separating yourself. You're agreeing to separation. To not look up is a huge mistake. Be appropriate in the moment. As Dogen says, one continuous mistake. So Tempeh takes a couple steps. What's going on here? And again, science said mistake. Just totally ripping him to shreds. That's another cool part in the commentary. Um, uh, right. The commentary on Stay Here for the Summer and Discuss These Two Mistakes. Hakuin says, because I'll rip you to pieces with them. It's obviously a very compassionate ripping to pieces. So, yeah, he's just trying to poke this guy. And a lot of this stuff is these koans sitting for hours and hours, training each other on doing the forms right, telling you you hit the bells wrong. Um, it's all purposeful, it's all designed to help us free ourselves of wanting to be right, of not wanting to make mistakes. Just a reminder, all of this stuff, the cutting of the fingers and the beating with the sticks and the arduous sitting and the going to the teacher just to tell them you don't see it or you have it wrong. You have to trust that all of it is really for the sake of service, to help each other wake up. If there's any hint that it's coming from a place of being mean or, authoritarian or, grasping to some kind of like power or control, then you need to get the hell out of there or here or at least say something. All of this should be totally rooted and grounded in trying to break free. That's what we're doing here, right? Trying to break free from suffering, the cycle of birth and death. It's not about being right. It's not about getting any kind of thing. We just want to penetrate suffering for myself and others. So all of this mistake, you got it wrong. If he's doing it right, which it looks like he didn't because Tenpei left, if you're doing it right, they feel more like kisses than blows. So yeah, so Tenpei is like super poked, and he comes even closer. And Cyan said, "Now these two mistakes just now, are they my mistakes or your mistakes?" I think all of us can probably smell the poke there, right? Mine, yours, self. other. I mean, he's really handing this Dharma stuff to Tenpei on a silver platter. He could not make the testing questions more obvious. A lot of these koans they get very subtle, but here you're wrong, you're wrong. Now is that you're wrong or am I wrong? So obvious. Just live mistakes. Step off of the sword's edge. But Tenpei is just so nervous. He says, my mistakes. Right? Right? My mistakes? And Cyan, of course, responds with mistake. Yeah. So just so clear to me that Cyan is not trying to get Tenpei to be different, right? Do we all see that? That like there's no answer that Tenpei could have given where Cyan would have said, ah, right. This is all just play. He's playing and he wants somebody to play back with him. And in fact, Tenpei gives up. Tenpei gave up. Well, yeah. So yeah, so he's like, wrong, wrong. Is that you're wrong or my wrong? My wrong? Wrong. Totally just trying to play and get some kind of um, selfless, spontaneous, open response coming from a place of not knowing. Just play with me. Show me your Zen right now. Show me your true self. What would you say to those mistakes? It says here Tenpei gave up. And I guess you could see that giving up as like a angry kind of a thing, frustrated. But it's actually really funny. I'm just realizing this right now. Um, the night before we started session, Monday night, I was talking to a really good friend of mine named Kave, and he's a meditator. He's not really a Zen guy, but he's a meditator. And as we were hanging up the phone, he said, "Have a great session and just give up." I really appreciated that. It's kind of a common Zen trope, but always fresh, right? And in this particular moment, it was really fresh for me. Yeah, just give up. Give up trying to be right. Give up trying to be sexy. Give up trying to win. Give up trying to get it. Just give up. There's a lot of wonderful koans around that. And man, that is a lesson that I am sure I will continue to be learning for the next 100 years. Just give up. It's so hard. It's so hard, for me at least, to really give up, really surrender, really let go. So when I read this, Tenpei gave up, that sounds, I get a feeling of like relief and like what an admirable thing to do. He didn't tense up, he didn't put him up, he gave up. It's beautiful. Maybe Cyan was really onto something. If you can, as a teacher, make someone help someone give up, man, that's talent right there. Um, so yeah, good for Tenpei. Gave up. So then Cyan says, just stay here for the summer so I can discuss these two mistakes with you. And what's coming up for me is Cyan's lonely. Cyan's lonely there at the temple. Please, just stay here. Play with me, right? He sees that he gives up. He sees potential. He sees strength and dedication in Tenpei. And so, yeah, please come practice with me. Come play with me. It's kind of like, when Hakuin says he's an eager beaver. I'm all alone. I can't find anyone to talk to. I'm an eager beaver. That's what Hakuin says about him. Um, and I resonate with that. Please come do Ongo with us. It's hard to give up. I want you to stay here so that we can work on things like mistakes and giving up. It reminds me of that story of Ananda and the Buddha. When Ananda, I think it's Ananda, could have been Kashyapa, but I think it was Ananda, goes to Buddha and he says, I've heard that they say that spiritual friendship is half of the way, or something like that, half of enlightenment. And the Buddha says, no, Ananda, spiritual friendship is the entirety of the Buddha way, or enlightenment, or something like that. So, yeah, please, please, let's look at this together. Did I say I was grateful for y'all being here? Because I mean it. Um, but Tenpei left. Tenpei left. So yeah, he gave up, which is good, but not all the way. Not all the way, seemingly, right? Because he left in a huff. Tell me I'm wrong. I'll tell you I'm wrong. Telling me a mistake. So yeah, that giving up maybe wasn't so thorough. That's what I want. I really want a thorough giving up. I think it would be very relieving. So then we cut to years later. Tenpei is living in a temple. He's doing his thing. He's a teacher now. He's the master of this temple. He's giving a talk and he says, when I was first going on pilgrimage, I was blown by the wind of events to the abode of Cyan. Twice in a row, he declared a mistake, and he tried to keep me there for the summer so he could discuss this with me. I do not say I was mistaken then. That's interesting. That seems a little counterintuitive, right? Is he sticking to his guns? I wasn't mistaken. He was wrong. But no, he follows it up with, when I set out on pilgrimage, I already knew it was mistaken. So, yeah, I think he's saying it's not that I made mistakes with Cyan looking up and walking towards him. It's that everything we do is a mistake. Continuous mistake, including doing Zazen and doing Ongo and doing Sesshin. This is all a big mistake, you guys. You tuning in right now, big mistake. Helping to support the Zen Center, big mistake. Of course, because just this is it, right? I'm sure a lot of us have heard this the Dogen story, or I guess it's he quotes the story of uh, I forget who it is, but someone's sitting in meditation, and his teacher comes and he says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm sitting in silent meditation." And the teacher says, "Why are you sitting in silent meditation?" And the guy says, "I'm trying to make a Buddha." And the teacher takes a tile, just a piece of trash sitting there, and he starts rubbing the tile like this. And the guy sitting says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm trying to make a mirror," right? And the point being, it's as silly to think that I can make a mirror out of a tile by polishing as it is for you to think that you're going to make a Buddha by sitting. It's ridiculous to think that you have to do something to become a Buddha. And obviously, we already are. So, from that standpoint, from the, whatever absolute standpoint, from the true nature standpoint, then yeah, doing zazen, building Zen centers, donating money, taking off work to do sesshin, huge mistake. Why would you do that when it already is? Um, well, because it's equally a mistake to not do it. Anyway, um, yeah, I knew before I even left for pilgrimage that it was mistaken. I like that. I like that. This innate awakening of knowing that it's not this and it's not that. Um, so, yeah, trust your instincts, have your great doubt, have your great faith. And yeah, Kosei talked about that on Tuesday. Great faith, great doubt, and great determination. Um, doubt that there's any reason to do this, doubt that I have any idea what I'm talking about, doubt that these koans are anything useful, and have faith that thousands of years worth of people have done this stuff and experienced this true giving up. And there's nothing special about them. We have faith that little old me too can do it through my mistakes. And determination, I mean, everybody here has got a whole lot of it, and you're proving it right now. So it's super inspiring to me to see all the determination here. And yeah, it's so beautiful to see everyone grinding up against each other. Even the Zoom stuff, it's amazing. I feel so, I don't know if you guys feel it, but I really do feel connected with this extended Zoom Sangha that we have. It's really, I don't think that's ever happened where we have 3 or 4 people in the Zendo and then like 8, 7, 6, 8 people on Zoom. It's really quite nice. Um, so yeah, let's keep on let's keep on giving up and let's keep on making mistakes.